I'm Rob Foote, and I'm a senior game producer on the Diablo 3 development team. As far as how we decided on the story for the expansion for Reaper of Souls, like everything we do at Blizzard, it's all about iteration, and it's all about distilling what is the best part of any feature or story. And I think the writers had a lot that they wanted to get out there for Reaper of Souls. It's very dark, it's got a very gothic feel to it, and once the enemy of Malthael was selected as the final boss, he's an archangel that embodies death itself. So the thought that you're basically going to progress through the game chasing after Malthael and ultimately defeating him as a hero felt really good. It also was a good tie-in for the Crusader as a class. The Crusader is this moving war machine that embodies, the holy powers, holy goodness, and that sort of just plays really well with Malthael as a boss. As far as the writers deciding on when certain things were going to happen in the story, I'm not exactly sure their process. I know that we've got a lot of very good writers. They work very hard, and I think they wanted to piece it together, and then essentially they pitched the story to the whole team in this great meeting where basically they lay out, here's the entire story, of where we're going for with Reaper of Souls, and everyone responded really positively. So we went with their ideas. The Crusader started with basically this envisioning of a battle-scarred, a knight in battle-scarred armor. Having designers work with artists and engineers together, a lot of ideas can get bounced back and forth, and it was very iterative, and he was sort of built from the ground up. So once a great concept gets drawn of the Crusader, and everyone looks at the concept and goes, that's perfect, that's the Crusader, that inspires the designer to have ideas that maybe he wouldn't have had otherwise. And then once the designer starts pitching these skills to the effects artists, they go off and make effects, and when the effects come back, sometimes it's like, that's perfect, that's spot on, exactly what we wanted for the skill. And other times they make something that looks visually awesome, and it makes the designer say, you know what, the way that looks, I'm going to take this skill into a different direction. And I think by working together closely and being very open to ideas from anywhere, kind of led the Crusader to come together really well, and players are going to be very, very excited to play it. Adventure mode is going to change the way people play Diablo 3. It allows players to move freely through all acts and through all waypoints. So essentially players can choose to go anywhere and slay anything. Layered into that is a series of bounties that players will be able to complete, where in every act they'll be given 5 randomly selected bounties, such as kill this specific named creature, or cleanse a cursed chest that they have to find. And the fact that those are going to be rolling randomly, and that the players can go anywhere between Act 1 and Act 5, I think is really going to open up the gameplay and add a lot more replayability. Also, Adventure Mode gives players access to Nephilim Rifts. And Nephilim Rifts are randomly generated environments with randomly placed monsters that previously may never have been seen on those environments. And players are going to be able to go through, and it really adds so much replayability, because players are basically have limitless exposure to new regions and fighting monsters in new environments. And on the beta, it was so well received that I think players are eagerly awaiting midnight tonight so they can hop in, race through, defeat Malthael, and unlock Adventure Mode. I think part of what makes Blizzard so great is that all of the developers are very passionate about all games. They play games that aren't just Blizzard games. That play, it's sort of a core requirement. When we're hiring someone on, is are you passionate about gaming? Because when you get a good team of developers working together on a game, and they're passionate about games, it almost doesn't feel like work. So I think the goal of Blizzard is always to produce games that we want to play. And I think by hiring all these these hardened gamers that love to game, and then building games that we want to play, because we have exposure to all the games that are currently out there as well, I think that leads to a superior product, and I think that that's why part of the reason why Blizzard's been so successful. Keeping people engaged in Diablo 3 is all about variety. Players need to have a lot of different things to do over their time, because playing the exact same thing over and over again isn't necessarily what players, even if they think they want to do that, the long-term health of the game requires players to have a lot of different outlets, and that's why having adventure mode, having Nephilim rifts, and having bounties, I think gives players, as well as the story mode, gives players a lot of different options to play the game, so that if they're doing bounties for an hour and they say, I want to try something fresh, well, then they can go do Nephilim Rift, or they can replay through the story mode. So I think giving players a lot of options to see different environments, fight different monsters, because at the end of the day, Diablo is about killing monsters to get really, really cool loot, and that's what we are going to deliver in Reaper of Souls.
The Nephilim will stop you.
No one can stop death.
We have a long history at Blizzard of whenever a game is released to continue to support it with significant content patches after the release, and we've always done this for free, and I think players really they're happy because it creates such a value. Like when you buy Reaper of Souls or you buy a Blizzard product, and then you see that we are willing to continue support for it, where some games don't necessarily do that. And I think that value is what makes people continue to buy Blizzard games. They feel like they're getting a game that's great at a good value, and I think that's why people keep coming back, regardless of what the payment format is.